Welcome back to LCK Summer Promotion Tournament. We are on the final day. We are looking for the final team. And Joel, we're not going to know in 3 games. We're going for more extra innings here in this best of 5 as KONGDOO Monster made a small adjustment. They banned the Karma. And from there, MVP reacted. They said, okay, we still got a flex pick mid laner. It's going to be about the Scion. But not being able to play piggyback with the Camille Karma actually pigeonholed them into team fighting. Maybe that would be fine, but KONGDOO was so on the ball with the Baron, and the one-time MVP could have been clutch with the Baron. They were the opposite of clutch. They fell away with the smite to try to take the 3rd Baron of the game, and KONGDOO Monster deserving victors in game number 2.
And I feel like they recovered back from the losses they faced in the early game, where I felt like KONGDOO Monster wanted to take a piece of the playbook out of MVP in game 1, where they took out the split push potential with the gangplank. I felt like that was the kind of the answer they were trying to provide with. But they were countered right back with the Gnar you talk about. That was the direct counter to what Gangplank was trying to do in a side push. But you know, even after suffering so much with the Gangplank with KONGDOO Monster, they went with the macro plays. They stuck together, got the Baron plays, and eventually the 3rd one was good enough to finish out the game, and that was a very nice switch over from KONGDOO Monster to get the victory.
And in no way are we saying that they did it flawlessly. There were certainly some bumps along the roads. Remember, we're looking to crown our 10th team in the LCK. It's all about being better on the day. And MVP wayward in game 2. KONGDOO Monster, for their part, much more powerful than we've seen in recent times. I think it's time for game number 3. And we will see our first adjustment, Joel, as we will see MVP on the red side. They had side selection in game number 1, 3, and 5 because they come from the winner's bracket. KONGDOO Monster have already had to battle from a loss in their first series. That does mean that MVP choose red for the first time tonight.
They did benefit MVP from the blue side when they were able to counter back. Coming from KONGDOO's initial gangplank pick, they were able to counter back with the Gnar by being on the blue side, was successful in the picks and bans for Team MVP. But now KONGDOO is going to be on the blue side trying to do their part to counter back all the picks that will come from the 1st and 2nd picks that MVP will bring forth. We're going to see this split push because that's kind of been the story of the series so far from game 1 and 2 so far. So late team fight was what they went for with KONGDOO Monster in the end, and Barons were kind of what rewarded them with the victory at the end. But just talking about what KONGDOO Monster is going to bring, are they going to go back to the split push, or is going to be MVP trying to go for the kind of ultra rush Camille, trying to see that as well too?
Well, Joel, I was wondering to the last second, would they be bringing in Kai'Sa? As remember, there is not 3 AD carry bans in this particular series. It was only the one from the side of KONGDOO. They were red side banning 2 AD carries. Final ban was Kai'Sa, but the 3rd in the triumvirate is the Caitlyn. And now if you're KONGDOO Monster, you got to deal with perhaps the strongest 2v2 lane that can be fielded. Kate Morgana, the NA and EU LCS special, super powerful in the 2v2, making the Caitlyn even less accountable than usual with the Black Shield.
Oh.
How will KONGDOO react? Soul loves him some hyper carries.
My goodness.
And we're going firepower with firepower. We're taking the Jinx into the Caitlyn.
I mean, we talk about high priorities with the Caitlyn and the Morgana. Definitely wasn't the thing I was thinking about when they talk about counter picks. Being on the blue side wasn't the Jinx that I was hoping for, but really got the kind of surprise pick coming from KONGDOO.
So the fun interaction here is that if you think about good laning picks into the Caitlyn, Varus is gone. So it's not going to be the Varus. That's the plug and play for most teams. Tristana. Teams can't get away with that anymore after the Tristana nerfs. The best tier list, if you don't think about anything else, is Ashe, because she has 600 range and can all in the Caitlyn. But Morgana's there to put down a Black Shield. No enchanted crystal arrow value. Actually, the 2nd favorite laning choice by a lot of laners I talked to is the Jinx. First round Jinx still sounds crazy, but it is the decision here to try to fight in the 2v2, and it's also the hype factor of seeing a hard carry, AD carry in Soul wield the Jinx. Should mention also Gangplank final pick in the 1st round. So the Gangplank priority, like I mentioned, jumped up after game number 1, and now the double ban again, but this time from MVP on the red side.
That's going to be MVP picking up the Gangplank, banning out the Camille in the midst as well. So it's going to be Gnar open for the meantime. So a counter pick, what they have been dealt with in game 2, can be brought upon once again. Maybe if he's going to be the final ban here against Ian. And
so what did I mention in game? I said if Scion goes in, a wall goes behind him, people can't join the fight. Separating tanks is really what you want to do. KONGDOO have Jinx. You know they're going to go for more tanks on their side. And Nivea and Azir have the 2 walls that can really create terrain to interrupt the tanks. And while it's a smaller wall, the Trundle Pillar is very good for separating tanks from the rest of their team.
So not the highest priority. Jungle pick when only Olaf has been kind of the main target away from the side of MVP in terms of jungle, but goes with the Trundle, as you say. But the rush coming from Sion is the only thing they want to avoid here, and the team of KONGDOO wants to pick up Zac as well. It has been very apparent in our series so far in this last series of the promotions. But you talk about Jinx, still seems like that main character role coming from Seoul.
We're going to get tanks everywhere. We're going to get a tank at the top lane. Surely, it'd be a surprise to see a carry. See what KONGDOO Monster think. This will be the top lane decision, or potentially a mid laner, and flexing the Sion away from the mid lane. Sounds like a weird thing to say, but Sion mid lane has recently been back in the meta.
I'd like to see something like Galio as well, but you talk about Gnar being that direct counter pick against the game playing. It's going to be a very easy go coming in from Roach there. And so there's going to be a mid lane Sion as we expected with Edge. So a lot of protection for that Jinx right there. And they're going to just add to the shield game where we kind of reminisce back to game 1 from Team MVP and where they did go back to the Lulu. And actually, I'm going to be switching over to the Rise Indians. So it's going to be another carry, another damage potential from Team MVP. For very different taste styles when it comes to the different compositions that these two teams are bringing. KONGDOO definitely central around the Jinx there with Soul, but MVP, the damage can be dispersed all over the place.
I mean, they were looking for priority with their last pick. They thought about the Lulu. That was what KONGDOO Monster ran on the red side in a similar spot. But in the end, they end up with Rise, and both of them really answered by that banner of command. So I feel like the Rise is decent into the Sion, not going to have kill pressure. Good luck killing a Sion. In the top lane, they'll have presence. We will see Roach being able to take the 1v1 against GP in many cases. Will we see the Rage Blade again? That's a fun thing to inspect. But I feel like KONGDOO really didn't leave anything open for the final pick here. There was no supreme champion to really answer the comp when Anivia and also the Azir were taken away, as they both can answer very heavy tank comps. And I think KONGDOO have gotten through the draft pretty unscathed. However, there's never any inevitability about these Jinx comps until the late game. While their early game play was decent in game number 2, it was largely centered around a good Baron call. And I think the MVP coach would say, the game was lost at the first Baron. Be more on the ball after 20 minutes, and games like that will not go that way. And we'll wait and see if that prophecy is true in game number 3.
If you are MVP, you're just challenging KONGDOO at what's their best. Going for the early game, which they kind of have been taking prowess and what got them there in the first place. They're not the last team to go out, and they're here for the very last opportunity to get to the LCK Summer. They can do it through the early game, but what KONGDOO really depends on is the late game here.
Getting there is going to be tricky though. Game number 3, we're tied up 1-1 between KONGDOO Monster and MVP. Who will take the lead in this best of 5? Papa Smithy and Joel bringing you this last best of 5, the LCK Summer Promotion Tournament. Already Invade coming through from MVP, but KONGDOO Monster grouped. Very much want to know about the jungle start. It's always an important thing for Trundle. You were speaking a little bit about your surprise at Trundle when no other jungle picks are taken. The thing about Trundle is the surprise continues in the level 3, because if he counter ganks you, gets the pillar off, very quickly can proc the press the attack. His dueling on a counter gank, pretty damn insane. Some great cheese gank options at level 2. We saw MLXG for RNG yesterday being able to pull that off. I really like the value of the pillar here. People will look at the comp and say, okay, but you can only ult one of the tanks, so not that big a deal. But if you can ult one of the tanks and potentially pillar another one away, whichever one doesn't have flash up, you can play 5v1 and separate the tanks away from the Jinx. And hey, Jinx ain't got no tanks. She's not doing any damage. That's the theory here with the Trundle. So with Azir and Anivia removed, big fan of the Trundle. The Rise, though, making that one work is a little bit trickier. I remain to be convinced, but we'll give Ian every chance in the world to give it a go.
I felt like Lulu would have been a more conventional pick into the composition they were building around, but they do decide to go with the Rise there. And
I mean, to be fair, I would have been very surprised if both mid laners pulled out mid Lulu after no mid Lulu in Korea all year. But again, It's all about the one-day meta sometimes, isn't it, Joe? I'm sure you've seen that many times sitting on the sidelines. Sometimes it feels like the tier list, it's in the rubbish for the day. The meta picks for the day instead become big. Karma has evolved from Game 1 to Game 2 and 3 as being a must-ban. And we may not have seen the last twist and turn that picks and bans have to take for us. As we mentioned the situational Trundle ganks, he's already bot lane.
So not going to look for the counter gank here. He's going to be looking for a direct gank himself. The pillar is ready on level 3. Just hop in
the
there.
binding.
The binding does come through and he's going to go for the top.
Beautifully done.
Going to be enough damage to finish him out. Morgana gets the kill there instead of giving it off to the Caitlyn, but either way, a very happy situation coming from MVP there. Very easy gank coming from the Trundle. Almost didn't even have to use the pillar there.
It's one of those pre-nerf Rammus situations where the taunt starts and it felt like his CC bar never dropped. The interaction there, Dark Binding into trap, and then Beyond able to clean it up. Really nice gank coming through from MVP on the bot side, and this troll's not done.
Okay, we're going to see another gank coming through here. We might see the pillar this time around. Does have the flash available. Edge is going to use it right away. So another win coming in for MVP there with Raze trying to get an equal out in terms of gank potential, but we're not getting the same amount of trade between the two junglers who have been on the front foot in terms of Trundle being the winners in their early game ganks here.
And we're not getting the same flavor of gangplank, as this one's a little bit different. He has gone for the Kleptomancy in the Nara matchup. In the reverse matchup, we saw Roach rocking the Resolve tree into the Grasp of the Undying, but ADD going to be a bit more about gold generation. That does mean he's a bit more susceptible to being pushed in, something that's always to some degree going to happen. Going to be to the nth degree when he hasn't gone Resolve tree for some stronger trades. But if the Trundle's doing all the work, if it's a Zac jungle where you're not so afraid of the damage potential from the jungle to help for a turret dive, taking that extra risk, and we'll see if it pays off for ADD.
It really has been the Grasp of the Undying just to stay alive in that 1v1 trade between the Gangplank and the Gnar. We saw in Game 2, even with the Grasp, doesn't really help you too much surviving lane with much efficacy. So it's going to be about the Gnar trying to trouble the Gangplank as much as they can, but the Kleptomancy just trying to gamble, as you say, a little bit towards what the rune actually stands for. You get to the late game with a little more power than you would with the Grasp of the Undying.
The right way to look at it. He's still trying to find his spot to get the trades in. We'll see how the pilfering goes, as OGN is always willing to show us those gold numbers. The game goes on. Already mentioned that Caitlyn Morgana be damn proficient. Walking up another time.
Zac is going to be here. He's going to get the Black Shield just to get him out of there without any CC potential coming from the Zac. So really tough for the Zac here. Trying to get a gank in onto one of the lane that was really pushing towards her opponent, but Trundle is right
also
here.
He's going to be spotted. Didn't actually have the stones, we'll say, to stick around in that brush and actually challenge him 1v1. Wasn't fully informed of what was happening in front of him. Beyond continuing to look for the skirmish. He has wave control for now in mid side. Beyond has certainly been on the front foot. You can see an ideology shift for him in this game because he's been all over the map.
It really hasn't. A bot lane kill onto a mid lane flash down. Might prompt him to go for another gank here. Beyond does have all his utilities available to knock down the sign without a flash available. So
can they kill him is the question that perhaps we'll see resolved.
He's going to try for it now. He's going to get for the stun. Coming from the Rise here, and a combo does go through. Does not really equate to anything. Trying to get him to slow onto that skill there from Edge, but really it's going to be a successful escape from what Beyond was trying to bring with that mid lane gank.
When it comes to the bot lane ganks, I think a lot of it has to be around Black Shield timing. Has a very long cooldown, so if you're taking a camp bot side and the bot lane says, hey, 10 seconds to come in, maybe you can make it work, but you know, over the course of history, successful gank was first, did you get a kill, into did you get a flash? When you're ganking Caitlyn Morgana with Black Shield up, your best result is getting about 100 mana worth of abilities, because anything else is not going to happen for the gank on the side of the Zac. It's just not possible given the kill.
Has to kind of remember back to what Game 1 brought us to the game, where Zac had a hard time ganking any lanes that he was trying to prioritize, but it's going to be a similar situation once again. ADD just clearing out the lane, really not troubled by anything this far, and Ray's just trying to get much as he can, just counter jungling to what he does, and he's going to go for a TP
Saw
here.
Similar play in game number 1, but this time we're seeing a 3-man dive.
And it's going to be the ultimate coming down with the flash, just get him out of there. Edge is not going to be able to contribute too much, coming for that third member in that gank. Doesn't really equate to anything when ADD just ultimates and flashes to the other side, just avoiding all the tasks here. And it's going to be that
Beyond interrupts.
The pillar coming in. Zac running away with the elastic slingshot, so no problem there, but Otherwise, it's just going to be a lot of frustration still building up in this KONGDOO lineup where Zach was intended to be that early game gank utility assignment, but we can't get any with Black Shield coming from the Morgana, also with ADD. If you can escape like that with the ultimate and the flash, there's just really little you can do as a Zach, where your kind of earlier lane quest was trying to kill off some early members, but really having a hard time to do so.
Tricky lanes. I mean, top lane is certainly the one you want to go for. That was a very big investment because the teleport comes through. But Ryze wasn't going to come for a counter gank. The chances of it happening against, as we mentioned, ultimate and flash on the GP, very, very tricky to pull off. We have to start looking forward again, as perhaps we're going to get another pretty lean early game. Beyond returning, Edge doesn't quite have his flash.
Go for the W to get the stun.
Really
he just really get the flash, and Raze is right there with him, so flash wasted for Beyond. Thinking that with the W coming in from the Ryze, thinking that he's going to just go forward and try to get enough damage with the press of attack, but spots Zach very late after he uses the flash, so really not going to be a go button for him.
And Ian definitely didn't have the killer instinct running because he didn't use his own flash. So he didn't want to go for a double flash play. He was like a bit of a disconnect. I don't think just the Zach walking up at level 5 is going to change too much. Beyond backs away, goes back to his jungle. The blue buff is donated. So as I mentioned, we look a bit forward. We try to look at the spoilers and see if they're going to be true in this particular game. While MVP doesn't really have engage, think of their engage, very situational, cannon barrage, a pillar. They have great sieging because they can go down next to a turret. Morgana can zone. They have triple range coming from the bot side of the map, and the pillar just behind for disengage or to try to poke around a turret. Trap line goes down. That part is strong. They have great turn also, both off the Baron and the turret with the Realm Warp. Largely, they're around objective play and hitting those timings with the Caitlyn, the static shiv into pushing timings that we very often talk about. KONGDOO Monster mid-game into late-game fights, probably more erring towards the late game because Jinx takes that little bit of an extra time to ramp up. See if MVP can actually play the macro game they could very well in game number 1 to play that siege game in a little bit of time.
We see Trundle right here coming from Beyond. Just the control art. Confirms that there is no extended vision right here. Without the flash, he's not going to be extending right away. The pillar comes in, missing out on the Q coming from Morgana. So a little bit of miscommunication that we saw, kind of extending over from the mid lane with the Ryze miscommunication, just kind of going down to bot lane as well. The pillar just kind of was the only thing that got him away from the Q as well.
Thought they were going to set up a dive, which seemed optimistic against Tahm Kench. Instead, they make the more measured play around the Infernal. They have control of the river top and bot side. Very little control at all for KONGDOO Monster in this game. Now, the smites were definitely a little bit off in game number 2. Will we actually see an attempt here?
Might be worth to go for the Infernal, but Raze thinks better of it with 2 members, with Ryze and the Trundle right there. Going for the Drake. He doesn't want to give up his life just for the Infernal Drake. That he cannot confirm for himself, so back to his jungling again with Soul back on the laning phase. It's going to be about stalling time as much as they can, and Edge, Raze, and the rest of the members of KONGDOO Monster, they want to just give this Jinx as little as trouble as possible, and just getting into the late game as successfully as they can is what they're wanting for themselves, but otherwise trying to hold on to all the lanes respectively as they can.
And time is really a fickle mistress. We all feel that as we get older, just ask me, but in this particular game, when exactly KONGDOO Monster is far ahead, you think of Jinx comps, you're like, okay, tanks and Jinx, far ahead eventually. It's really tricky to think about. Gangplank will be online, and he's a great 5v5 fighter himself. The Caitlyn has that weird spot where she falls away for a long time, but does get very, very powerful purely from having the benefit of 650 range. And KONGDOO Monster is a one-threat comp. It's not a one-threat comp with Ardent Sensors galore, because if you look at them, the Tahm Kench is going to build more tank items than a Zeke's Convergence and things like that. So here, it's actually very kind of uncharted waters as we go into the late game. It feels like the guarantees are not really there on either side, short of KONGDOO having more prototypical engage and MVP having better siege and better Baron turns. So given that, we do have a very even game. Feels like both teams, whoever puts their best foot forward, will actually be able to crest an advantage. The game goes on. That's hype. I like it when we reach 1-1. Both teams have already shown that, hey, we can win a game, and this must-win best-of-5. And now execution will probably get us over the line.
It really is, and a lot slower pace game this time around for game 3. The objective-wise, Raze's going to go in here.
Flash is back up onto ADD. We see the counter roam come through from Ian as well.
Okay, Ian's going to be there. Has his ultimate available if he decides to use it, but talking about earlier where the objectives are less prioritized this time around with no turrets going down for this first 12 minutes, and the only dragon that goes down is the Infernal. So coming up to here, it's going to be a lot of even laning to all three lanes here. How that equates to anything, we're going to find out later. And Pilot just trying to trade as much as he can against the Jinx. Let's see how this transition forward, because right now objectives not really heavily invested into one specific lane, as you know, all three lanes are still pretty even across all sides.
Yeah, I was actually looking for turret health on the bot side. Wasn't able to spy it for the side of KONGDOO Monster. It's usually more about that than CS advantage. When you're running the Caitlyn, we already mentioned that Jinx does pretty decent into Caitlyn, all things considered. Best of the options available, and also allowed the draft to be about the hyper carry, which KONGDOO Monster have very often made the LCK about getting Soul going on a Kog'Maw, for example.
There he is once again. Soul, he wants to be the hero for KONGDOO Monster. The big lifeline they're trying to get with this LCK summer promotion. Have to get in, it's what they're wanting. Don't really care if it's a spring split or the summer split, they just want to be at LCK at all times. And here you are, Roach, just trying to go for it here. Get the barrel down,
could be
the
a turn
ultimate.
kill.
Okay, he's gonna go for the flash here, just gonna queue it up and just try to flash as much as he can.
Might have
Maybe
it, it's gonna be close.
Another Q,
Got
that
him.
will be the good enough to get that second kill of this game with MVP. Solo kill coming from the top lane after. Seems like Roach, he was really optimistic about, you know, his chances of getting the gangplank solo, but gets it on the other way around, and second loss coming for KONGDOO Monster.
But it's not any solo kill, it's a gangplank with Kleptomancy picking up the solo kill. What that means for the side lane as the game goes on, everyone is well aware of. Big kill for ADD. The moment that Roach missed the Mega Gnar ultimate, that was the sinking feeling, confirmed. And a nice all-in from ADD. Awkward stuff on the top side of the map. Equal in CS, Klepto, and a solo kill. We'll see if that advantage for the GP spreads to the other lanes.
Seeing the Gnar, just going for the Ninja Tabi and also typical offensive items that we usually see in Go. But otherwise, Max and Pilot on this bot lane here, just trying to be as aggressive as they can against the Tahm Kench and the Jinx, but very protrude about with Soul trying to head in there with the turrets you talked about earlier.
It's very healthy
very,
still,
very
Joel.
safely.
It's very, very healthy, which doesn't bode that well for MVP, who want to turn it on. Now, the solo kill on top gives us some pause, but you can see beyond, he's getting angsty. He knows the gank potential's not that high, but if he walks up and even allows 3 to 4 autos a wave onto this turret, that'll go down. He'll be able to start going between other lanes. They're trying to make that siege game work. This is a preview of what we'll see in other lanes.
This might be the first time that we saw MVP's bot lane pushed up very far in this part of the spectrum, but that does mean that with Trundle coming in, there's going to be a lot of support that allows the rest of the MVP bot lane to get a few shots onto that turret. But saw how healthy it was earlier, just about a few seconds ago, but just one push like that coming from the Caitlyn and the Morgana is going to be good enough to get it down less than bottom half of the healthier.
They get a Devourer as well. They know Devourer's on cooldown now. Raze has to walk up as well. A small point that I'm actually only uncovering as I watch this extended 3v3 on the bot side is, consider we're in this weird Relic Shield meta where the jungler picks up a Relic Shield that doesn't have Bandit, but just picks it up because he needs wards the game goes on. You pick it up so you can have 4 wards and a sweeper in the late game. You're actually incentivized to pick Caitlyn in that meta because you're going to spend more time going for plays like this.
Max is going to go for the ultimate here, just going to devour him once again, so does not get the cooldown right on time. Going to get the pillar, trying to put down the HP.
They're going for it.
But Zach's going to be appearing to the scene now, and Pilot backs off with the rest of his teammates, and going to be about the Tahm Kench surviving for that time being. The Caitlyn was trying to just auto-attack piece by piece, just trying to get the Tahm Kench down, but does not end up in success. Might
be about the Dark Binding accuracy from Max, who has been on the ball. We've seen some go wide in this tournament. Again, top 2 teams from Challenger, bot 2 teams from the LCK. Not always going to be micro excellence, but Max has always been very powerful. He's always been on these skill shot champions. They do get the turret. And just to complete my thought, if you're going to be in the lane, why not have a Relic Shield as Trundle when you put down the pillar, auto a couple of minions, share the gold, and get your way towards that 500 gold quest as well. So Siege comps with this Relic Shield jungle tank meta, maybe that's a preview of what we see at MSI.
That pressure coming in from Trundle onto the bot side was enough for the strong bot duo of Caitlyn and Morgana to jump in there and get the rest of the turret, especially with Tahm Kench joining out there. But you talk about Morgana's gold difference right now
and
against
also
the Tahm
Caitlyn,
Kench.
yeah.
Caitlyn has been on the ball as well, but it seems like just right now, just bot lane, we expected it to be very, very strong as he saw out the kind of the first priority coming from the picks and bans from MVP with the Caitlyn and the Morgana.
We mentioned kind of one of KONGDOO's biggest struggles has been adapting in a game. Like understanding that, okay, this part that we thought was going to be good wasn't, let's change. Do notice they had a triangle of control wards around their red side jungle saying, hey, mid lane can't roam, we're going to see the Realm Warp come in early. What did MVP do? They basically had Beyond lane with his Relic Shield and just roll in, put down 3 traps, a pillar, and take the turret. So they weren't actually able to get any value at all out of the vision that they had down. Now it's kind of outdated when it comes to what it provides. MVP, they just returned to bot side, not worried about any of the vision that's been put down. Infinity Edge now complete for Pilot. It's not the greatest siege build, but there is actually nerfs onto the other kind of Zeal items, specifically the Static Shiv in recent times. This is kind of a trap build of, if you step on a trap, you're getting a pretty sick crit to the face.
It really is. Look at what Jinx has been building as well, other than BF Sword. Gonna be the rapid fire cannon just for extended range, but otherwise a very weak Jinx at this point in time. That means for later in the game, they're just investing towards a later point.
But now in the game, they're investing into the top side. Looked like there was going to be Abyssal Voyage play. They back away, but the GPO, it's already level 2. They'll be able to stop this minion wave. Jinx will just remain mid lane, and now actually they're responding to the pressure of MVP.
That's going to be them rotating back again with the members of KONGDOO. Has to go back to the mid lane here. Max trying to get another binding here. Connect that time around. Soul just trying to clear the wave with the help of his teammates. Otherwise, very good reactions coming from MVP, mostly around what is happening around the map. They know how to react to what they have to go next, and their approach into their next territory has been very good so far.
Well, we're getting a big zoom out because Raze has been able to sneak himself into a great vantage point. We see a Black Shield use. Great time for him to go in. Still being patient.
It sees Beyond. He's going to go in, and the double teleport coming in from both teams here. The ultimate is going to come through. Not much damage going to the Trundle now, so Edge is going to come in here. Just going to ultimate it. Really not going to lead to anything. Max is just going to go down to low health. Very in the front line. Can't do much about the ADD with the gameplay. With the barrel, it's going to be going in. Flash coming in from Ian with the ultimate, and the Zanya is going to go in forward, and it's going to just cancel it actually. It's going to go forward with it here and Beyond, and the rest of the members getting hurt. As we see Soul just popping off right now, left and right. Gangplank is going to go down. Flash is going to go thin, taking all the turret damage, but so strong with the Gangplank with the Q. Is it good enough to knock off 25% of Jinx damage? And that's going to be a double kill coming in from ADD on that Gangplank. Roach is too far away from the Gangplank and cannot chase it with the Gnar form that he is in.
What an insane fight. 4 for 4 on both sides, and we definitely know which side the bread is buttered on. It's the Jinx on the side of KONGDOO, but this Gangplank after his earliest solo kill made probably the most impressive teleport GP gank work that I've ever seen. We're going to see the replay. Apparently, we might actually see the Pirate kill someone after this. We're not 100% sure in live, but we're watching the replay. They didn't wait for the Black Shield, so predictably, Pilot doesn't go into the back line. Edge misses as well, but Max, that's what happens when you're not a tank support anymore. You're very squishy in the front line. We join a big investment to go for the turret dive, and Ian, that's not how that interaction works anymore. You need to stasis much earlier if you're actually going to have the Realm Warp available to go through. Soul got excited, and I must admit, Joel, I thought this was all over. I thought this was a KONGDOO win.
But really, all that damage coming from the Kleptomancy Gangplank has been collecting a lot of gold over time. That has shown. One Q doing so much damage to multiple members of KONGDOO Monster here, including the Jinx that really just went down from 25 to nothing. So that will be a lot of wins. That could have went the other way for MVP.
You know what the worry is, though, Joel? It's a Kleptomancy Gangplank, but with fights like that, it might become a Necromancy Gangplank because he seems to command death on whoever he walks at. Already a snowball 2 items way ahead of the Gnar. I'm waiting for the gold grab. That's going to lead to some lulls.
You see a lot of damage coming from Soul just from 1 Q, and Soul just very happy about his situation. Zach's just going to get out of there with the help of the Devour coming from the Tom Kench, but mentioning Soul putting a lot of damage, enough to put incredible amount of damage onto the members of MVP. Going to block the ultimate there from Tom Kench, but otherwise Soul, how can he keep up his composure, really put out the damage that he really needs and his team needs to carry them forward here? Because talk about the team composition that we're initially building, it is really around the Jinx and only about the Jinx, really.
And it's one of those things where we're going to have, if we can ask the observers, who I hope are listening to us right now, very early introduction to the replays, because something like, hey, he just used Devour, might start this fight, or Black Shield being on cooldown. It's very much about the protection abilities being available, because otherwise, Trundle Pillar being on cooldown, maybe that's a go timing. Very small cooldowns, not ultimates like we usually see in these 5v5 games. But both escape and those situational ultimates like the Pillar of Ice are so important when this game has been all about a very narrow mid lane. Notice that the Caitlyn hasn't been able to grow a lead. There hasn't been 3 turrets taken, which is very possible with being able to rotate strong after the great play on bot side. It's been largely just trade of cooldowns, flashes, and farm in the mid lane, and that means Jinx getting closer and closer to 3 items, and that's probably the biggest invitation for KONGDOO to pop off.
And trade of kill count as well, Papa Smithy, as we do see that 4v4 team. We're going to see another one here. There's a Voyage coming in from Tahm Kench.
It's only Tahm Kench. There's no other damage here. This will take a while.
Hey, but does that mean that MVP will be prioritized towards the Baron?
Oh, he got out!
Get him away, and look at the Dragon here being taken by MVP amongst that time, and they use that distraction that we talked about. Ian kind of putting good distractions onto the member ever since game 1, and he does it again in game 3. Gets them enough time to get the Infernal Drake, and it's going to be a good feeling going to the mid turret here.
They got a bit of insight and an in-track into the mid lane as well, but I gotta say, Joel, I don't think you should be able to find a more than 1 seconds of window where you're not interrupted by CC from Tahm Kench and Sion. They're basically only CC and a Devour, and they weren't able to measure out their cooldowns. They thought, okay, let's use everything for damage. They didn't have an interrupt, and they'll probably feel pretty sheepish that Ian was able to get away.
There he is, and MVP, for the first time in game 3, finds a huge amount of success, especially with the help of Ian coming in, escaping that gank.
Whoa, Sion got very confused there. He was looking the other way and still got the Decimating Smash forward. It's a special feature of this particular patch. We take a deep breath. We remember we were keeping our eyes focused on Ian and his chain of being ganked on the top side. We see A to D for a moment, and again we remember he is about the biggest pirate. He's definitely going to have his own cool name. Captain Jack's already taken away, so we can't call him Pirate Captain Jack. That doesn't work, but we'll find a new one as this game rolls on, looking towards his, you'd imagine, Youmuu's Ghostblade. That's been the favorite item by him third recently, and he is going to be 1,600 gold ahead. It could be more. A couple of kills to Nar spares his blushes a little bit, but it's only going to get bigger for the Gangplank.
You're going to imagine how big Gangplank is currently at the moment. Only going to get bigger with Caitlyn just helping to push. The help of Trundle, like last time in the bot lane. Going to do it again in the top lane, gets the first tier turret. Right now, Pilot, very happy times with how he's just pushing each individual lanes. Including mid, she's trying to be the next priority, I'm sure. Right now, MVP just focusing around Caitlyn and just holding the stability with the Rise is kind of what has been the positive tracks for what MVP has shown so far.
To me, when I look at the items, the state of the game, I think the one advantage MVP have in team fights is after cooldowns are down. There may be some big atrocity where 7 flashes are used, ultimates are used. After that, MVP have now finished the Zeke's convergence onto Trundle. That means ulting one person, a pillar behind them, they're dead if no flash is available. So very extended trades, and that's what a Siege comp loves, because the Siege comp wants to burn enemy cooldowns, return to the Siege, and then the Trundle could potentially profit. However, KONGDOO Monster are happy to play the side lane. They get a single turret in top, and you see the MVP returning to getting this mid lane turret.
You see another Caitlyn
nice
push,
interrupt.
and we talked about the interruption coming in from the Zac skill there with the elastic slingshot. Can't really do that easily with the pillar on your way, but let's talk about what Caitlyn can do with the side of MVP. Has been just pushing constantly. Eventually, you do get all 3 turrets in the tier 1, but just trying to hold on. It seems like KONGDOO Monster is what they're trying to do, just trying to get that to the late game, or that point of time that you mentioned is a little bit unknown as the moment when the Jinx will get very, very strong enough that they can carry forward with this game. But otherwise, it seems like MVP are the ones to push, whereas the KONGDOO just trying to hold on to the aggression that MVP showing.
And that eventuality, like you say, it's a bit muddy, because I think 3 items with a mid lane Sion is fairly unkillable. Go for it. That's the time where you get going. But I don't think the Jinx can roll through as easily as in most Jinx games because of the power of something like Trundle, because Caitlyn doesn't necessarily fall particularly far behind in the late game. Acquire that first kill. They need to somehow instantly blow up ADD, Beyond, or Ian the front line to actually get full value. The Jinx of the games goes on, and there's 3 items onto that Gangplank. Maybe we'll actually see the 1v1, because this was the point where we were like, I wonder what Rageblade Gnar looks like against the Gangplank. Seems like Roach isn't wondering. He's a little bit less curious than us, because he's had enough of these damage items. He's working on Aranduins. He's respecting the GP.
At the same time, we see the Gangplank heavily fed with 3 kills and 2 assists. So much gold under his belt. We're going to see a team fight might open up. It's going to be the Q missing out from Max, but otherwise, talk about the interaction between Gangplank and Gnar. Gnar has been the bully in Game 2. He was just so far ahead, but this time around, Gangplank with the Claptomancy and with an addition of kills.
That was one autoed, that was one rocket, and that's 50% of his health gone.
You know what that means? That means that Jinx, along with Soul, feeling very happy about his opportunity to just strike in with the rest of his teammate, feeling very confident. Another Q with the crit that can come through. Just gonna die into the Blobbers. It barely survives him. With Secret just going down, going to the Devour. The Pillar coming through. Does not get the raise though. Just gonna get out of there. Ian's gonna come from behind.
But what do we say, Joel? A lot used just in a moment there. A couple of flashes defensively. The next Pillar, Bobby spells Doom. They lose some mid lane priority. They don't take the turret. And while a couple more rockets come in, MVP say, hey, what about a Baron? We're ready to turn on you.
Really is Zach very, very low as he tries to just rush back into where this is. Initially had been 4-4, but
how the smite's looking, the trap line slows down Edge.
Zach is just so far away, and I don't see this very stolen, and it's actually gonna be a Roach?
Nope, that's actually the smite comes through.
It's gonna be a Roach
kill
getting
goes
the kill.
In anyway.
Yes, it will, and it's gonna be a very easy Baron take. Coming in from MVP there, Zach was so far away, still at the base, halfway through the damage mark.
They want to keep going, they think they can get Soul excited.
Okay, Zach and Tom Kench join in here. That's going to be a lot of AoE, and that's going to be so much damage, but Soul gets destroyed on the other end. So many players from MP rotating to the left side, and that's going to be the Jinx dying in an instant. That's going to be Pilot's happy ends going forward and forward to get additional kill. Beyond is not done yet. Raze, after getting the Blobbers away, going to go for another kill here.
Chilling Smite just to slow him down. It gets the Elastic Slingshot back. Oh, Joel, they got too excited. The KONGDOO monster. That's what you think you want. You've got the Jinx, but they go in thinking they're grouped up. The rockets, they will take them down. They're baited by half-healthing people with the rockets earlier. They go too far. Soul dies with flash available. MVP clean up, and what did we say? We say if the cooldowns are down, that's where MVP prosper. They agree. They take the Baron. They get the bonus. Gift wrapped is the present of the Baron with those extra kills, and now MVP monstrously ahead.
And you gotta understand what that brought forth into what Soul got him eliminated is that the two main protection of what KONGDOO Monster was surrounding, supposed to be around Jinx, was in the front line, just way away from Jinx, and that just gave him a clear line of sight for the rest of MVP to just go for a free food onto Jinx.
And the comms of that are so clear in the replay. It's Soul saying, if you interrupt them, I can kill them all. Sadly, his own safety was at risk. It was well turned. Ian assassinated him on the rise, and they get the maximum to MVP. And through all of this, we knew there were early Infernals. There's been 3. They have 3 Infernals and the Baron. Best of luck dealing with that one against a Siege comp. MVP should roll this inhibitor.
It really is, and Soul feeling less confident than he did just about a minute ago. He did suffer that death.
How do you like some damage, Joel?
Giving up some Baron and giving up a lot of team fight kills. Going over to Pilot here. Gonna try to go for another kill
here. That's a lot of bad guys.
Okay, ADD just gonna be trapped in here for the meantime. Just the ultimate might be enough to kill Raze even. Are we going to see that going down?
He's still alive!
Okay, ADD still survives, just rotates down to his teammate. ADD so fed right now and can just survive for days. Even the Sterix Gauge helping him survive that fight, and he just rotates back in time. Uses a lot of investment to get ADD on that gangplank, does get nothing.
I think he gets a promotion. He's Admiral Gangplank in this game. Admiral ADD, that's hard to say, is what we're going to call ADD in this case. He gets away through all of that, auto-attacking people under turrets. He escapes. They try to get a single pick in lieu of the inhibitor that we said was already going to go down. In the end, MVP get everything. KONGDOO Monsters shortchanged. And now that Pirate, he's back.
What essentially KONGDOO did was just give up the bot turret because there was no way of defending that. Just Wayne invested entirely into the mid lane to kill the gangplank.
Watch
the replay here.
This was them saying, man, we can't defend against this Siege comp. Let's get a kill onto the gangplank. He lives for a while. You think it's just Yakety Sax. He's going to die, right? He's walking towards the enemy base. That's only looming death. Morgana now says, maybe I can walk up and help. Starts to leave in the mini-map. He uses the orange a second time. Edge, he finds the black shield. He can't interrupt any hijinks. And Admiral ADD gets away.
Sterix Gauge into the black shield, into the orange. That will equate to an applause from the MVP fans because they're happy about the top man just surviving with so many advantages now gained over towards MVP. Just unsurmountable, and in terms of KONGDOO's perspective when they have to lose the minimum after losing the Baron, but they lose the maximum of what we can expect.
Losing the maximum is bad. Very easy to summate that one. And now MVP, they roll on forward. They still have what is almost an unanswerable siege comp where the traps go down, the 80 items have stacked up, and Edge says, maybe I can flank them. That's about all they can do.
Another attempt.
It's pretty deep teleport also.
That's gonna be taking a long time. Just gonna ultimate rush in there most likely.
All right, what happens here?
Max just gonna use the, not gonna use the Black Shield for now. He's gonna make him survive in there. Just gonna
now
get
he's
them.
alone.
Okay. And suddenly ADD just takes the front line, takes the team 1v4. He does not care about KONGDOO Monster of what power they can bring. ADD literally just went 1v4 while the other four were just killing off the Sion.
You know, people criticize BDD's Sion because he never uses the passive because he never dies. That was definitely some passive maximization coming through from Edge. That man really wanted to run around as an undead zombie, but I think that's kind of Sion all the time. He was truly dead that time. MVP gonna keep pushing up, but now it's 5v4. So goodbye, Inhibitor.
And the advantages will only get bigger for MVP, which means that the KONGDOO's hopes for winning Game 3 get less and less.
So?
Just gonna go down in an auto attack and a Q coming from the Caitlyn, and that will be the second Inhibitor turn, second Nexus turn going down, and that will be Nexus going down. It really doesn't seem like any hopeful. There's no point in commentating this one because it seems like KONGDOO have lost this one.
How about some KDA padding on the side of MVP? They're able to overpower. The Gangplank was the start. He's the one. ADD Merle comes through. And MVP steamroll KONGDOO Monster. And a one Nexus explosion away from extinguishing the hopes of KONGDOO in making their first ever summer season.
And how different can it look from Game 2 to Game 3, where Game 2 looks so good for KONGDOO, doing all the right things, macro-wise, onto the micro things, not losing against MVP in multiple occasions, but Game 3, just an outpour of disappointment of what KONGDOO should have brought to the table.
And now you think of 3 games and you remember that the only real shot in the arm that KONGDOO Monster got was their creative Baron take. That Baron was what started the cascade and their Game 2 victory. Otherwise, kind of been MVP again and again. Very nicely done by them in game number 3. The solo kill was the start, but some solid plays afterwards, and I love the decision to go to Baron when the flashes and some of the ults were down on the side of KONGDOO. That does mean a game 4. It does feel like, honestly, this whole promotion tournament has gone to expectation. Griffin the first in. MVP do seem very likely to join them.
Definitely in game 2, where we saw KONGDOO feel like they were equally outmatched by MVP. MVP equally could have won that one in game 2, but lost out in a Baron steal coming from KONGDOO. Game 3 seems like an overpower of MVP that cannot be controlled by the side of KONGDOO, trying to just fight against it, but it seems like a definite loss for KONGDOO in Game 3.
And for all those people who love patterns, for once we will not have the team who loses Game 1 win the next 3. That doesn't happen today. MVP actually win Game 3 after winning Game 1. They are one step closer. Just a single game victory is all they need. After the break, we will see if MVP will join Griffin and the other 8 teams in LCK Summer, or if we will have a best of 5, go all 5 games if KONGDOO Monster win. Don't go anywhere, guys. Great game number 4 gonna join the first 3. Joel and I so excited about bringing it to you after this short break.